Welcome to today's Sales Playbook Podcast. I'm Dave Panozzo, the host, and I have my dear friend Dayana here. I'm so glad we were able to pull this off.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
And what's really crazy is I've been wanting to do this. Everyone's been telling me. I mean, this is our first episode. This is crazy. Like, I know we'll look back on this and laugh. But everyone's been telling me, Dave, you got to do a podcast.
I think I was those people that told you that too.
So you're sitting here and we're going to do some talking. Cool. But I think it's important that, again, this is about sales. And sales has different meanings to everybody. Because we've all heard it. Like, oh, yeah, I was in sales. No, you weren't in sales because you had a salary. Or, you know, they were like in some type of customer service thing or whatever the case. And I know there's going to be a lot of people, probably a lot of real estate agents, hopefully, watching this, right? I want to dive into a little bit about how did you get into sales? Because everyone gets into sales. They don't typically, their intent is to get into sales. Mm-hmm. It just sort of happens.
Yeah. So
walk me through. Because again, you've been on the team now. It's going to be 3 years in December. I remember when you were no.
Oh no.
But let's go back. Let's go back in time. Like, where was your mindset? And let's paint that picture of where you were at back in the day when you decided I'm going to get my real estate license.
So. Yeah, never had plans of ever getting into sales. I thought for the longest time that I was literally going to be a corporate girly and climb the corporate ladder and one day be something in the C-suite of somewhere. So I was in grad school. What was I doing? I was in grad school. I was going to school. I think I was a year in. And then my sister, I think, was at a point in her life where she was like, hey, I want to do something different. And she was like, hey, I'm going to get into real estate. You should just do it with me. And I'm the type of person that I'm like, if somebody's going to do something with me, I'm down. Like, I'm doing it. I don't care.
Right. Buddy system.
Yeah, exactly. Everything buddy system. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take the class with you. Like, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I'll just get my license just to have it. And then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it later, right? So we both signed up for the class. I think she had started taking it before me. And then, again, I was in school. So I was like trying to manage school, my job. And then now out of the blue.
So hold on, let's back up a little bit. Mm-hmm. How old were you when this?
Oh man,
we need to frame this up so people understand.
20.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's my first year of grad school. So yeah, I was 20. I was 20 years old. She said, "Hey, I don't want to kind of do whatever job I'm doing right now. So let's try something different." I said, "Okay." So we got the class together. And then she started it. I was kind of busy with school, so I hadn't started it right away. And the thing with me is once I have a deadline, I am the type of person that a month before I'm like finished. Like, I'm a procrastinator on and on. So literally, I want to say she never finished it. She decided no, because she ended up getting pregnant and having a kid. So so she never finished it. I ended up finishing my course because I didn't want to lose out on the money that I spent on the course.
Now, hold on. Did you do the crash one or did you do like the...
I did. It was online because it was during COVID. So all of it was during COVID and it was online. They gave me, I want to say, 3 or 6 months or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Arizona School of Real Estate, whatever that website is. Yeah. So I went on there. I think they gave me 3 or 6 months or something like that. And I said, okay. I think I was down to like month 2. Like, I had 2 months left to finish this thing, like pass the test and do the whole deal. And I was like, I need to start on this now. Otherwise, I'm not spending money to extend this course.
Right.
So yeah, I literally myself crash coursed it for like a month, finished all my classes in a month, took the test, passed it. And then immediately, like a week later, I remember it was like 5 a.m. before a work day. It was Friday. I had to go to work at 8, I think, that day. At 5 a.m., I went to go take the state test, passed it. Then I went immediately to work. And then while I'm at work, I'm like doing all my paperwork to like trying to get my license filed. And then I got my license. And in my mind, I'm going, I don't know that I'll use this for anything. My parents are pretty big on like, not big on real estate investing, but they're big on like, hey, you should own property. And
because how many properties do they have?
So when I started, they had 3. They had a commercial lot and they like rent out each lot, which brings them a pretty decent amount of income. Yeah. And then they have one house that they rent out and then like another home somewhere else. But since then they've sold one, they've kept the commercial one, and then they're about to sell the second one to buy another one.
And so you grew up watching like real estate at work
Yeah.
for your parents' own financial, like, did you ever look at that going, oh, I could be the one actually doing this selling? Was that connection there?
I think I was more so like when I, as like little Dayana, hey, when I grow up, I need to buy houses to be like them. Because I will say there was a point when I was younger that I think both my parents had lost their jobs. Like they both got laid off. And the only thing keeping them going was the rent that they were receiving from.
That's huge. So you saw that.
Yeah. So they were receiving rent. They were paying their mortgage and like all of our bills. And keep in mind, there's 6 of us. Like there's 6 kids. Like it's not inexpensive. So yeah, there were 6 of us. They were like maintaining all of us for a good period of time. Yeah.
So you saw that leverage of what happens when you invest.
Yeah.
And because we always hear the other stories of like, yeah, I remember when I was a kid, my parents lost their job, whatever. Yeah. And like, we had to go move into a 1-bedroom studio or the horrific stories, but your parents were able to keep you guys afloat.
They kept going. I remember, and it's funny to me because sometimes people, I think, look down on like, hey, you own a mobile home, whatever, right? Sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, people prejudge.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the properties that my parents owned was like this mobile home. And I think that was the one that was like, oh shoot, like I didn't realize something that small of a property, because when you think typically like real estate investing, you're thinking condos, townhomes, like single family homes, right? Like nobody thinks, oh, I'm going to go rent out this mobile home and then figure it out. But no, honestly, like that one and the single family home were probably the reason why my parents stayed afloat.
Wow. How much was the,
I don't know.
what were they, do you remember what they were renting
No, but I remember they were only paying, I don't know, $500-$600.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because my dad had owned a property before he married my mom. And that I think he had paid, I think I looked at tax records, I think he paid like $50,000 on that house. And then the house that my parents still have, the one that I grew up in, they paid $181,000 for it. Isn't
it crazy now we can't even find a mobile home for $150? I mean, it's tough. Yeah, okay, so hold on, let's back up a little bit. So you're in college.
Yes.
You are taking the real estate courses.
Yeah.
You also have a part-time job.
Oh, full-time job, but yeah.
Full-time.
Yeah.
You're stacking the deck. Like 3 things going on.
Yeah.
How, and at such a young age, like where did you learn how to balance all that? Because let's face it, some people can't even, do this, okay? Let alone functioning at that level, doing 3 major things. It's not like going to the grocery store and talking to your friend on the phone. Like, where did that come from? Like, how were you able to balance all that?
I think, I don't know when it started, but I've been doing that. I mean, you know my story, but like for those that don't, when I was, I'll start when I was 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, they tried to make me skip a grade. Like I was in kindergarten, they were like, she doesn't belong in kindergarten. We need to move her to 1st grade. And then my parents were like, absolutely not, because her brother's in 1st grade. We don't want them there together. So I was like, okay, like let him not get bullied. So anyway, so I went through school. By the time I got to about 8th grade, I think that summer I started taking summer classes. So by the time I was a freshman in high school, I was already taking college courses. So it was freshman year of high school. I was doing like my regular courses, and then after school, after like sports practice, then I'd go to like my college classes in the afternoon. So I did that all throughout high school, and I graduated high school a year early. So I think my whole, like ever since I was like in 8th grade, my day has just been packed. Like I purposely like packed up my day every single day to the point where like I was exhausted every single day at night. And then I think when I got to college, because when I was in college, I remember I was in college and I was working 2 full-time jobs, because I was like, there's nobody else that's going to pay my tuition. Right. So I need to be able to do this. So I would go to college, and then I do my 2 full-time jobs, and then I finished college in 3 years instead of the 4 too. And then by the time I got to grad school, it was almost like I got a break, because it was only school and only work versus like school.
So you're like, oh, I'm working part-time. This is like part-time.
Yeah, I was like, I have so much free time. I don't know what to do with my life. So I'm like talking to everybody. And then that's when I was like, oh, I need to figure out like something to do. Because I think when I was in grad school too, I think one of the main reasons why I went and decided to go get my real estate license is I was taking an entrepreneurship course. And they were like, oh, you have to like be your own boss. And I was doing really, really well in that course. And I thought, oh, like, why am I not utilizing like my skills of like being able to come up with solutions for like some other whatever, right?
So something was nipping at your heels like back then where you were like,
yeah, I think so. And then because I had at one point, I think I had my license in the middle of that course, but it wasn't until I had my license that I was really like, oh, well, I have it now. Like I have to do something with it because before my mindset was, okay, I'm going to get my license, but it'll just be there. Like I'll maybe use it on my parents here and there, you know, if they need it for something. But I didn't really ever feel like, oh, I need to like.
I can apply this and actually make money. Yeah. Okay, so you get your license, and I want people to kind of understand because again, you and I both know starting out in real estate.
Yeah.
If you don't build the right foundation and it's kind of sketchy and a little off, that's going to catch up to you later on down the road. So I want to talk about like when you first started out, you were with someone else. Like, let's break that piece down. Not that we're going to talk crap, but I'm just saying like that versus then transferring over when we joined, like walk me through that piece.
So my realtor was actually on your team. That's when I had bought my house. And that was like 2 months before I had gotten my license or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had bought my house at like 20 years old. And then I remember for my 21st birthday, I was like, I got to do something with this license. Like I gotta go crazy.
Now let's not downplay that one piece. And we're not going to, you bought a house at 20 years old.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Like, that's the American dream right there.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, so grateful because I think when I bought it, like looking back now and actually being in the industry now, I'm like, when I was in it, part of me was like, oh, I shouldn't do this. Like, I should just forget it. Like, I'll just wait a couple years. Like, not that I was too young, but I felt like, oh, I'm ahead of everybody else buying a house. Right. So maybe I can just chill out and wait a couple years and then I'll buy one, right? Like, no, I'm so glad.
How glad are you?
Well, my interest rate's like dirt cheap too, so.
What's your interest rate?
3.125. I know. It's hard. It's hard.
What kind of, now, because you made that move, okay, what kind of equity do you have right now, you think?
I check it pretty frequently, about 200,000.
200 grand. From that one decision you made, 200 grand.
Yeah.
People don't realize how, like, sometimes we overthink.
Yeah.
And we don't look at the big picture, and that's amazing. I mean, that's because think about what you can do with that. Like you can leverage that. You could buy another house. You could start another business. That's like emergency money that heaven forbid something crazy happens. You can leverage that as well too.
I will say, like my parents, like looking back at it, my parents have always used their equity and pulled it out and bought another house.
Yeah.
Like, and that's part of the reason I'm sure why they've stayed afloat. But like, if there's one thing that I repeatedly say to like all of my friends that right now aren't owning homes is like, listen, if anything were to happen to me tomorrow, I'm putting a for sale sign up on that house and I'm good. Like all of my debt gets paid with my student loans, everything will get paid with that house and I'll fresh start. Like,
now with your younger friends, do they look at you like you're just a unicorn? Like,
I think part of them, my friends that are my age, yes. And they think it's almost like not attainable, which I think is the problem with it. Because but it's been like that my whole life. Like my younger siblings and you know what I mean?
You've seen the playbook though. You have seen the playbook on how to create wealth.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
Where everyone else is like, maybe their parents, maybe they've always rented or they're stuck in that cycle to where no one has taught them financially how to do things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think, especially to my friends that are about my age, I think it's like, like I'm the unicorn that like got everything done and like but I will say most of my friends are older. So I think now it's like common, right? It's like, oh, I have a house. Okay, so do you. You know what I mean? And actually some of my friends that are older, I've helped them buy their first house, right? So like that's kind of cool, but yeah.
Okay, so going back, didn't mean to go down that little side alley there, but I think that's important that people understand, like, when you are surrounded by other movers and shakers and people that are doing things, look what happens. You know, they always say you need to be the one person in the room. If you're making the most money in your friend group, you need to change friend groups. you need to put yourself in a situation where you're making the least amount and everyone else is up here, because what happens is that you will end up gravitating towards doing bigger and better things. So again, that's super cool. Okay, so let's go back. So couple months, you bought the house, or you're about to buy the house.
I'm about to buy the house.
And then let's get back into that.
Oh, I think, okay. All right, let me think timeline. Okay, I got into contact with realtor, and then I was like on this journey to buy the house. That didn't end up working out. Didn't end up purchasing a house that time, because I think during this time it was like multiple offers and it went crazy. Anyways, eventually I ended up buying a house.
And she wasn't a closer either, but anyway.
So then I ended up buying a house. And I think my like ticking point was, I'm already doing these classes and I'm like working this job where in my mind at the time, I think I was getting paid a little more than what I should have been paid, just because I was really doing like absolutely nothing. Right. But in my mind, I'm going, okay, I saw the settlement statement. I saw how much she got paid. That realtor showed me 2 homes in one day. And it wasn't, I think what upset me the most was the fact that I negotiated my own contract. I was like, hey, put this in there, put this, and this, because I'd lost out on so many homes. I felt like I already knew what the heck I was doing.
You were working the deal.
I was. So I was like, hey, why doesn't this offer have XYZ? Like, I need you to put that in there because I don't want to lose this one, right? So literally, I got that house, completely different from everything else I was looking at. But my thing was, when I thought of it, I'm going, okay, if it looks dated and crappy and like it sucks, and I renovate it, that's like instant equity right there.
Absolutely.
Because it's priced right now at this crappy condition. You know what I mean? So I chose a house like that, completely renovated it. And then I saw what she got paid on that settlement statement. And I was like, I was like, she got paid what? For showing me 2 homes? And I had to tell her what to put in my own contract? Like, she didn't even tell me what to do. So then at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm getting my license. So then I'd bought the house, and that's really when I started.
That really motivated you at that point.
Yeah, it did, because I saw the paycheck, and I was like, this is like terrible, right? So then after that, I think like 3 weeks later, I got my license.
Wow.
Yeah, I got my license it motivated me so much. I was like, I don't care, I'm getting my license. I got it 3 weeks later. That agent that sold me the house, she was thinking of starting a team. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So, okay, let me see kind of what this is about. I'm not going to do it full time anyways, because I'm not going to, at the time I was like, I'm not going to leave my stable job. I'm just going to do this part time, right? So I did that part time. I sold a house to my cousin first. And then after that, I think some connection or some lead that she had. And then I got my paychecks. I got 2 paychecks in 1 month, and I was like, I'm quitting my job. I was like, there's no way I'm sitting here wasting my hours, like in my ability, 40 hours a week,
right,
sitting at an office job when I could just be out managing my own time. And as long as I learn how to manage it well, I'll make enough money, right? So I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to do that. So I was like talking to her about it, and I was like, hey, I think I want to do this full time. She, at the time, I think if I had sold 2 in 1 month, she had only sold 1, which to me was like,
wow.
Which is like weird, because I'm like, well, you're supposed to be the one teaching me, so I don't know how that works.
Right.
But anyways, so then I was like talking to her about it, and she was like, no, I think I'm going to go back to corporate. So she ended up. She
tapped out.
Mm-hmm, she tapped out before I did. So she ended up going back to corporate. But in the midst of that, I had reached back out to the agent that was on your team, and I was like, hey, like, you don't have to help me. I get it. I'm so sorry. Didn't use you as an agent, but like, I really would just like some tips or just like anything you could tell me that would help me get started some way, somehow. Right. And then I think she was like, oh, well, come meet Kim and Dave. And then just see what it's about, see what they can offer you. So I said, okay. So I think I met you. And then from there, I think we did some jumpstart program. I think I was for like 3 months or something. I remember I was freaked out because I was on leave for work, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do?
Right.
But yeah, I think I ran in the beginning, that sucked, like being so lost, I feel like, with her, because there was no sense of direction, like being under somebody that didn't even know how to do it themselves. Right. And then I think when I got to the team, a lot of my anxiety came from the fact that, like, okay, I'm in this jumpstart program for a couple months, but am I going to be able to make money? Right. Like, just not having confidence in myself. And I think,
yeah, but you already sold 2 houses.
I had sold 2 houses. So part of me was like, okay, I know how to do it, but it's just doing it consistently. Because
Correct.
If not, I remember when I got my license and I told my parents, I said, hey, I'm going to do this full time. Like, I'm going to quit my job.
Right.
I'm going to do this full time. My dad was like, okay, go ahead. Like you know what you're going to do. Like you've always done whatever you want to do anyways. Nobody can stop you. I'm like, okay, great. My mom was like, absolutely not.
Really?
My mom was like, you need to keep your job. She's like, you can do this on the side. You've always done multiple things. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I get it, but I want to do this full time. So,
okay,
anyways.
so let's back up there. Again, the people who you surround yourself, your friends, your family, and as we're finding out, if you're the only one in sales and mom and dad are blue collar workers or just office workers and they're not in sales, like it's like two different religions.
Yeah.
Okay. If your dad would have said, no, you need to stay on a regular job to make steady income, do you think that would have swayed you, or do you think you would have, you don't know what you're talking about, Dad.
I think I would have.
I'm doing it anyway.
That one.
Okay.
Because I've been like that my whole life. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do anyways, and I'll figure it out. Like, don't worry, God's got me. I'm going to figure this out.
Good.
You know what I mean? That's how I've always been. But my parents, too, interestingly enough, they had their own business. Didn't go well, so they stopped running their own business. And I think that's part of the reason why my mom was like, hey, I've been down this road. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, don't start your own business. Taxes and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
But see, isn't it funny how people always give you advice on the things that they weren't good at? And it's like, I get it. They're coming from a place of concern, but it's like, okay, hey, thanks, Mom and Dad. You taught me some valuable lessons on the pros and cons of what to do and not do. And see, I don't think they realize that, because I know my kids are like, all right, Dad, we know you sucked at that. I'm not going down that road, one, but I do like some of those other things. So again, that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's just interesting, but I don't know where.
So now you're on the team.
Yep, now I'm on the team. Well, okay, so I was on Jumpstart for about 3 months, and I think during this time I was so annoying to you because I was like, Dave, am I going to be able to join this team? Like, am I going to be able to make money? I was so stressed out. I think I had ran my savings dry, like at the very end of that. But I knew in the back of my head, like if I needed, my dad would help me. You know what I mean? Sure, didn't want to use it. I've never been that type of person, but I was like, listen, if it happens, it happens. I think I ran my savings dry in that first month that you were like, hey, congratulations, like you're going to be on the team. I was like, okay, I need to work. I'm like, I need to work so hard. And I think that first month I got 4 closings.
But let's back up.
Yeah.
Because you were still doing the little part-time gig, and you were doing jump. So you juggled the ball there for a little while, right? Weren't you part-time in it?
I was part-time, not part-time. No, I had completely said, I'm not doing this anymore because I need to dedicate most of my time into learning what real estate is, which is why I was like, I need to focus 100% of my time into Jumpstart. Because if I don't do this right in the beginning, in my mind, I'm never going to be able to do it right later.
But remember, you were going out to your car making phone calls.
Yeah, because I was still in school. That was my part-time.
That's what it was. That's right. You were finishing up.
I was finishing up grad school. So
okay, so share with people what you were doing, because again, like to me, you did whatever it took, and I think what happens is that people start something new. And they put like this little 15, 20, 30% effort. And then they're like, oh, this is really hard. I'm going to back off and I want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I want our listeners and our audience to know what it took for you to get ramped up. Because we don't see that a lot.
Yeah. I think part of the reason was that like, I was using all of my savings to go 100% into this and like be into Jumpstart.
You went all in. Like you pushed the chips in and said,
I was like, I'm good.
Bet it all on black. Let's go.
So I did that. And then literally, I think when I got your message or whatever, that they were like, hey, congratulations, like you're going to be on the team. Immediately, I think I got a list of like names and numbers to call.
Right.
And I remember I would go to school. I think I had class at like noon or something. So I'd like go to our meetings in the morning. Immediately after, I'd rush to class because I had to be there by a certain time. And then right after that, I'm like, I literally just wasted half of my day being in class and being in a meeting. I don't have any other time to call. I'm not like these other people that have like the mornings and all of this time to call because I have school. Like I still have stuff to do. So then I would sit in the parking lot in like the garage of campus, like sitting there and I think I'd make like 25, 30 calls in one sitting until somebody picked up. Or until I had like a couple good conversations to the point where I felt like, okay, like
I got a little
that
something.
might turn into
got
something.
a little something
right?
cooking.
Yeah, like that might turn into something. I'm good. I can go home now, And then I'll work on, if I needed to work on that, I'll do that. If not, I think the worst part for me was like, if I didn't get somebody that I thought was going to turn into something, I'd like almost paranoia. I'd be like, oh, do I have to keep making calls? Do I have to keep, And I think it took me a long time to realize, like, when you make that, like, if you're making 50 calls a day, maybe it's just a bad day. Like, maybe you got to quit it and then start tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, again, we see this happen all the time with newer agents that get going, or older agents that have been around for a while and they get back in the swing of things. That's the hard work.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's when the self-doubt starts creeping in. You're like, oh my God, I've made 15, 20, 30 calls. No one's answering.
Yeah.
But then it's like, if you're doing that at 9:05 a.m.,
The time matters.
guess what? People are at work.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to you. So talk about a little bit of how you kind of found these different time zones that, because you were playing around with that for a while.
For a while. Yeah. I mean, I've never really been a morning person, so most of my calls started off.
You're not a morning person?
No, definitely
All right, we'll
not.
talk about that in the next episode.
Definitely not that. But anyway, so I wasn't really a morning person, but also I had like class and stuff in the morning. So I would always start my calls in the afternoon anyways. And I think because of that, I got really lucky because I realized a lot of the times when people were picking up these phone calls, they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just getting off of work. Can I call you in 30 minutes when I get home? Right? And then it's like mental note, okay, who are the people I have to call in 30 minutes to make sure they don't forget when they get home to call me, right? So then it started there. I think afterwards, once I stopped going to school and I kind of freed up my mornings and stuff, it was more like, okay, what am I doing in the mornings to prospect and to do these things? So I would try calling people in the morning, realize that really wasn't working because people were literally going into work, and the people that were picking up were either people on vacation that were coming in or like people that were retired, right? So when I would call in the morning, I realized I would text them afterwards. Like, I'd call them, they wouldn't pick up. I'd text them. I said, hey, I tried to reach you. Is there a better time that I can call? Then I would get the message saying, I'm so sorry, I'm at work. Can you call me during lunch? So then I realized, okay, lunchtime, and then as they're getting off of work, probably the two best times to get a hold of people that are working class people that work jobs, right? So I think that's how I kind of figured that out.
Now, I want to tell the listeners, okay, you will hear experts in our industry, they're like, oh, I time block from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And see, I've always been of the adage of it doesn't matter when, because if you're locking yourself into that time frame, now this isn't for everyone, okay? But again, if you're locking yourself in to 9:30 to 11:30, and that's really not the like call zone time that your people are gonna answer, you got to change it up. Like, and this is the thing. Well, I'm doing what I was told. No, you have to be creative. This is a creative type of environment that you just don't check the boxes as you go. Yeah. One day it might work. The next day it might not work. The next day it might not work again. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's like it works.
Yeah.
So I think that this is the part where salespeople get frustrated because what works one week doesn't work the next week. And then they're scared to try something different because of failure.
I think,
like, how many times, like, seriously, and I know you like, you've had failures kind of in the dark, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, you're not one to like, I've never heard you come in and be all like, oh, this sucks and these leads suck and I want, but like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about these failures that you've had kind of in the dark, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, what have you learned from some of that?
I will say, I think the way that I approach the failures, because I have heard that from other agents on the team saying that like, oh, I did call. I did everything that you told me, but none of it's working. And I'm like, well, there's one common denominator. And it's not them, it's you. You know what I mean? So majority of the time when something isn't working, I'm like, okay, it's something that I did, which is good and bad. Good mentality to have, bad mentality to have in some other areas, right? But I think specifically for calls, because I had that mentality that it's like, okay, it's something that I did. Now I'm like analyzing, okay, what did I do during this time? What time did I call? Was I in a good mood when I was calling people? Did I ask the right questions? You know what I mean? So then it's like looking at all of that and then going, okay, I think the time that I called was fine because they picked up, right? So I don't think it was that. Now I'm like analyzing, okay, well, did I eat before? Because if not, then I was probably hangry and I probably sounded terrible on the phone. You know what I mean? They're probably like, who the heck is this? I don't want to talk to you.
You're real exciting.
Yeah,
Click.
exactly. And then they're like hanging up on me. So I think I went through so many cycles. And again, making calls on volume helps because when you get through so many of them, I feel like you get in a rhythm of knowing, your like their responses of the questions that you're going to ask. So now you know what questions to ask to get the responses that you want, right?
Agreed. And again, the key word there, volume. Mm-hmm. Repetition. Michael Jordan did not go out to the basketball court and shoot 5 free throws, make 3 out of 5 and go, you know what, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Those guys, like you hear the stories, Kobe and him, like 1,000 1,000 free throws.
Yeah.
Like, do you realize how insane that sounds? Mm-hmm. And then we're in sales. It's the same thing. The more shots you take, the more practice runs, the better you get, so that when the real client does come across your path, or you have that first real conversation, you're like, you're in it.
Yeah.
Like the well has been primed and you're flowing good. You know, it's funny how, like you said, hungry, tired, like these are all things that come into play that people do not realize. I remember there's a couple times like I went out, I don't know, a last minute showing and I was starving. Mm-hmm. It was hot out, wasn't in a good mood. Well, guess what? Salesman Dave did not show up. It was let me get through this. I hope they say they want to write an offer and move on. Like what people don't realize is you can't just kind of get through sales.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that piece. Like when you show up for a client, like what's your mindset? Like when you go to meet with a client, it's not like you just crawl out of bed and you're like throw a baseball hat on and oh, hey, here's the house.
Yeah.
Like what goes through your mind right before you show a home or go to a listing appointment? Like what? Do you have a little psych up routine? Like, do you listen to certain music or, is there something that you do to get you in? I'm in. Now it's like operation sales mode. Boom.
I think it starts honestly that day, because if I know my schedule, like I know I have showings or I know I have a listing appointment or I know I have something that I have to do, I have to make sure I'm up like 2 hours beforehand, because I know when I'm tired, I'm the worst. Like you will be upset at me if I am tired. You know what I mean? So I have to wake up 2 hours before, make sure I'm all good, at least 2 hours before, of course.
Do you have a gaming problem, Dayana?
Anyways, that's for a different video. But yeah, I get up at least a couple hours before to make sure like I'm not tired, I'm not hungry. And then that for listing appointments specifically, I have to go through all of my documents again, like everything that I feel like I'm going to present on. And then on top of it, our listing book, I have to go through the entire listing book once before I feel even comfortable getting in my car to go. Because if I don't feel like I know what's in there, then I don't know what's going to happen when I actually hit the table and I have to explain this, right? So there's that. I don't think I have like I know some people have like some not weird, but like people will run through the entire listing appointment before they get to the listing appointment. I'm not those type of people, because I feel like a lot of the times appointments never go the way that you plan.
Never.
So I feel like my ability to wing things has helped me so much, which honestly that improv class that we did helped me a lot, because I feel like when you're able to kind of wing people asking you questions and things like that, it just goes so much better.
But let's be clear on that, okay? So she's saying wing it. That doesn't mean being unprepared.
Correct.
It means being able to wing the situation. You still know what the outcome is going to potentially be. However, sometimes conversations will go 1,000 different directions. And it's up to us to bring it back to center to keep our clients on point, because you could go off talking about, Aunt Carol's baked bean dish for the next 2 hours. And you're like, you're on a listing appointment. You got to that's a nice crock pot. And they go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
You got to bring it back and be able to talk. So that's what we're talking about when it comes to winging it, is being able to keep the client on point and having the conversation with the client versus, like you said, Some people think, I got my listing presentation. You're not at a podium in their house in the kitchen, like holding a speech, like a presidential speech. It's this conversation with. So how would you say, instead of talking at the clients, you're having these conversations with the clients? How have you been able to get better at that over time?
I think honestly for me, especially in the beginning when I felt like I don't really know what to talk to them about, and then we started having kind of these conversations of, well, like, what are you saying to these people and how are they reacting more specifically? Because it really is, I think, all in the reaction of these people. So I think for me, it was more so just once I got in the mentality of like, hey, these are honestly just my friends. Like, they have to just be my friends, because if they're not my friends, I'm not going to give you like this conversational piece of it, and you're not going to trust me.
Right.
So I think, because a lot of people are afraid, I've learned from other agents, like afraid to tell people like the hard truths of like what they're about to go through. Like, hey, it's not going to be easy. Hey, like this and that. It's like, this is what it is. And I'm just here to tell you what that is. You know what I mean? Versus like lying to them in a sense and telling them it's all rainbows and butterflies, and it's not.
No.
Yeah. So I think I've gotten to the point where I'm like, the best that I can do for people is to be the most honest person that I can be for them, because they are going to want a genuine person helping them out, not somebody that they feel like isn't for them.
So that's you basically being authentic. Mm-hmm. And we hear this phrase a lot, like, oh, fake it till you make it. I understand the saying. I understand what it means, but think about that in our industry. Fake it till you make it. Yeah. So what, you're gonna fake being a salesperson? That's not being true to you.
Yeah.
And I know that you, especially early on, remember like some of your outfits, you'd come in, you're like, I'm out showing today. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there you go. Yeah. That's you being you versus some stuffy, salesperson, all prim and proper. Like, people want to work with other people, not a salesperson, so to speak.
Yeah. I think too.
When did you get comfortable with that? Did it take you a minute?
I think it took me a minute, only because I remember in the beginning I was so concerned about my age. I was like, I am so young. These people are going to think a teenager is like trying to sell them a house. Like, this is some pyramid scheme. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not going to go well. But yeah, I was like so concerned. I think after I got through a couple clients, I was like, no, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares what I'm wearing. Nobody cares. After a while too, I think the way I got into the habit of like thinking like, it's fine, I could just wear, yes, be like modest, don't go crazy, but like, it doesn't, I don't know, like, I don't have to be in business attire every single day when I go, you know what I mean? So I think when I went and started showing homes, I noticed like these people, like my clients, right? Like, these people are wearing whatever the heck that they want. So why do I have to dress up? If you're going to dress like that, you know what I mean? To like this pretty important appointment of like the rest of your life, you're going to spend your house in here, and
right.
Like, you're dressed like that. So I think I got more comfortable, but also first impressions are very important. So I never do it on the first day. Like, the first day I am always very like, I feel like more dressed up than usual.
Sure.
It isn't until I get to know them that I start like toning it down a little bit.
Cause I remember when you got your Tesla, you're like, that made you feel better.
I was like, oh,
remember?
Good. I was like,
you're like,
now
I'm a real realtor. Yeah. I'm showing up in a Tessie. It's like, I remember when that.
Now 90% of Arizonians have.
Because how many times has someone, seriously, how many times in your career of being a realtor have they asked you, Dayana, how old are you?
I've never gotten the question like the first, like if I'm meeting people, first 5 times, never. It only ever comes up like later, like almost like to the point where I'm handing you your keys and then they're like, hey, I was kind of curious this entire time, like, but like, how old are you? And then I'm like, well, how old do you think you know what I mean? Like, then I start asking.
Isn't that amazing?
Questions. Yeah.
That's because you made them feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. But in the back of their head, they're still going like, who is this chick? Yeah,
exactly.
Are you like some Benjamin Button? Like, are you reversing it? like what's going on here?
Yeah, I've never had anybody like be, and even when they do find out my age, I've never had anybody be like,
deals off.
Like, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I let somebody that young. Like, it's never been like that. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, one more thing. Let's talk about your structuring of your days, your weeks, because I know that you I know you're a jet setter, and I know you like planning in advance. Mm-hmm. How much has the planner helped you?
I think it's helped me a ton in the sense of, I think honestly though, no, it's helped me a lot.
Seriously, because we talked about this,
Yeah.
and I put together this a while ago and experimented with you guys, because this is the best of what I used to do when I first got started, and I wanted to see if it was duplicatable. And I remember you're like, Dave, like, I love this thing.
Yeah, I remember when it first came out, I was like, did you literally read my mind? Because this is like exact. Because I remember I was asking you for a planner for a really long time.
Right.
And then finally we got one. No, honestly, I think it helps a lot, especially the first page for me specifically, because it asks you, like, what's your goal? Because I'm a very, like, result-oriented person. Like, I need to know where I need to go. And, like, everything in between, I'll figure it out, but I need to reach that.
Right.
So I think for me, seeing this front page every single morning, like, when I open it, I'm like, okay, like, this is why I have to work on the things that I wrote down today, because if not, I'm not going to reach that, you know? So then again, because I'm so, like, results oriented, everything that I write in here, I really try to have, like, a result from it. Like, even if I have my phone calls, because I typically put, like, my hot list and my follow-ups, like, those are the phone calls that I'm making for the day. If none of them pick up, then I have to figure out somewhere, like, in this planner, what am I going to be doing here that's productive? Like, and if none of it is work related, then what in my personal life here is going to be productive for the day?
Right.
Because I think my worst fear is, like, losing a day of, like, I'm doing absolutely nothing and being like a couch potato. Like, I can't do it. I have to, like, at least go work out, at least, you know what I mean? Like, do a lot of these things.
I mean, have you found, and again, like, Kim and I have been doing this for years, but it's like, we put everything on the calendar. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people are like, everything? Like, everything. Yeah. Because then you don't get decision fatigue. Because when you leave that stuff lingering up in your head, oh, do I need to do this tomorrow? Or, oh, do I need to, that's taking up bandwidth. Yeah. Like you need to be able to function at a super high level. And if you're, oh, did I put the garbage can out? Like, put it in the calendar, for God's sake.
I think for me, because I struggled with decision fatigue, like, so much before, to the point where I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I remember
you would literally,
I'd, like,
you got choked out.
Anxiety attacks because I didn't know what the heck I was doing every single day. So I think once I had this, of course you're going to have periods of time where I feel like you have your gaps.
Sure.
And those times are what I, like, almost like, in a sense, like, I'm searching for that time in here. So if I have my entire day filled with, like, appointments, that's really, really good. So the less free time I have throughout, like, the morning and the afternoon, I feel like is a win. Like, oh, I'm like, oh, I, like, booked myself so well that I have only this amount of time that I can really, like, mess with, right?
Yeah.
I feel like for me too, having my schedule, when I have those gaps of, like, okay, I don't have an appointment here, I don't have to make my calls during this time, I don't have to do something, like, very urgent there, is the times that I sneak in, like, going to the gym or, like, reading a book or, like, having, like, my downtime of, like, that happens at, like, 2 a.m. and that's not even on this. So
do you want me to do a 24-hour one?
Probably no. Let's not do that. I'm trying to get away from it. But yeah, no. Honestly, I think I searched for, like, that time where I'm like, okay, I was able to do all of the things that I wanted to do work-wise. Like, I was able to schedule everything that I wanted to, and all of those are great. And now I have, even though I was able to do everything, I still have time for myself. Because I think for me, a lot of the times it's like I'm always trying to figure out, okay, how can I have a life and then, like, be all about work? Because I feel like for me, I'm like 80% work, 20% life. Like, yeah. If it comes down to it, that's what it is, But it's like I'm still trying to make sure, like, the people in my life, like, that are important to me understand that they're important to me, and, like, I'm still building and, like, cultivating those relationships and not just, like, completely ignoring people and, like, hey, I'm busy working, like, you should understand, because they won't.
Yeah. So no, you have to sometimes explain that, because people don't, they literally don't understand when you're at dinner and it's like, oh my God, that's the one that I need to talk to, and you dip out. Like, they don't understand that because they're working a regular job, which the phone stops ringing at 5 p.m.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think during those time periods, or even, like, kind of like how you and Kim literally plan out date nights, like, I have to do that for my friends. Like, hey, we have to meet, Like if we're meeting tomorrow, it has to be tomorrow at this time. Like I can't be a minute late because it's going to mess with like everything else that I already have planned, right? So that in terms of like scheduling, that's helped. Again, today's goals, like I said, very goal oriented, at least for me. And then really the daily tracker, because I know we did something before that was like, you log in every single day and you put how many calls you made, and you put, to me, that's like a really good indicator if I'm like if I have not reached my goal already, it's a good indicator of where I'm going.
Well, and it's a way to hold yourself accountable, because again, we have to look in the mirror at the end of the day and go, did we go all in, or could we have done a little more, or did we suck? Yeah. And unfortunately, we're not in a position to where we're in an office where there's a manager sitting over you going, Dayana, your production was low today. What's your problem? We have to do that ourselves as salespeople, entrepreneurs, business owners, and we sometimes lie to ourselves, and sometimes we have to tell ourselves the truth, like, hey, I was a little light on the calls today, but tomorrow I'm going to make up for that. Yeah.
Well, to me, it's like really for this, if I look at it and I go, okay, sure, if I was only able to make 5 calls today, did I get one under contract? Right? Like that's like that I feel like is justifiable. When it's, hey, I didn't get anything under contract and I didn't set any appointments and I didn't do anything and I only made 5 calls, like what the heck am I doing? Yeah. Like, okay, like I'm looking back at it like, all right, like I just got to try harder tomorrow, right? Because today's over. But yeah.
Well, again, these are the things that we do as salespeople. And I know for our audience that whether you're a brand new agent or an agent that's been out there a while and you really haven't got this thing figured out, these are some life lessons here. Dayana is living, breathing proof that it takes focus. Yeah. You have to be goal-oriented, and you have to hold yourself accountable. And I want to thank you for coming on. This is the first ever podcast. Woo! Like the balloons should drop out of the sky.
You should have brought confetti or something.
Maybe that'll be on the 100th one. I'll have you come back on the 100th one. But again, Dayana, I want to thank you for being on today's
Thank you so much.
show.
Thank you.
And for those out there that are going, hey, what's this planner all about? Shoot me a DM with the word planner, and maybe I'll do something special for you. I'm working out on a promotion right now where all you have to do is just pay shipping costs. I'll send you the planner for free, but shoot it in the DM or comment below planner, and I'll reach back out to you. And as always, make it a great day. This is the Sales Playbook Podcast. I'm Dave Panozzo. We're going to talk about sales. Sales is something that is very near and dear to me. I got into sales in 1993. And since then, I have learned so much over the years. And sales is something that is a unique trade that a lot of people don't know about. Sales is all ages. As long as you can walk and talk, you can always do sales. Whether you're young, whether you're old, it doesn't matter. Even if you're just starting out, sales is something that makes the world go around. There is no ceiling on how much money you can make in sales, and I want to unlock that on this podcast. So stay tuned.